Snow was falling harder than the weather forecast had warned, covering the early morning streets of Denver in a thick, white silence. Ethan Marshall, the 35-year-old CEO of Marshall Tech Industries, stepped out of his black SUV, ready to walk into the company headquarters for another day of hard decisions, endless meetings, and a loneliness he had mastered hiding. But the moment his shoes touched the icy pavement, something made him pause. A small figure stood near the entrance, trembling, wearing a thin pink jacket that clearly wasn't meant for winter. Her boots were mismatched, her hair messy with frost, and her cheeks flushed red from the cold. Ethan's first thought was that she was lost. But when she lifted her head, her enormous hazel eyes carried a kind of fear not common in children. She wasn't lost, she was desperate. And when she quietly said, almost in a whisper carried by the wind, that her mother hadn't come home last night, Ethan felt something crack open inside him, something he thought had died long ago with his own childhood. Backhand index pointing down before the story continues. If you believe in kindness, humanity, and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these emotional stories reach more hearts. Ethan had no idea why the child had chosen him, of all people on the street. But fate always hides in strange corners. The girl, who said her name was Lily Parker, seemed to recognize something in him, perhaps safety, perhaps hope. She explained, her voice small and trembling, that her mother, Grace Parker, worked evening shifts at a nearby diner and always came home by 10 p.m. But last night, she never did. Lily had waited, sitting by the window with the lights on, hugging a thin blanket, telling herself her mother would appear. But the night passed. Morning came. And still, no footsteps at the door. Fear pushed her out into the cold, and she followed the only clue she had, her mother's last conversation about serving late-night orders from a large corporate group. She hoped someone important from the business district might know something, someone like this man in the crisp winter coat who seemed to command attention from everyone around him. Ethan listened, every instinct inside him tightening. He tried to stay calm, but the story echoed too closely to old memories, of nights he had waited for a mother who never came home, swallowed by addiction and the city's shadows. He could still remember being 9 years old, alone in a freezing apartment, thinking nobody in the world cared. That was why he couldn't walk away now, not when he had the power to help a child going through the same fear he once knew. Without hesitation, Ethan took Lily inside the warm lobby, offered her hot chocolate, and called his security team. But the moment she said the name of the diner where her mother worked, he realized with a jolt that he had passed that exact place late last night after a business dinner. He remembered seeing police tape nearby but assumed it was just another late-night accident. Now, his heartbeat sped painfully. He gently asked Lily to tell him everything again, and though her voice shook, she tried to sound brave. Listening hurt him deeply. No child deserved this kind of fear. Ethan made a decision he hadn't made in years. He cleared his entire schedule. For the first time as CEO, he walked past meetings, ignored investors, and told his assistant to postpone everything indefinitely. He took Lily by the hand and walked her back outside into the snowfall. Cars honked. People stared at the powerful CEO holding the hand of a shivering little girl. But Ethan didn't care. He wasn't a CEO right now. He was just a man trying to protect a child the world seemed to have forgotten. As they moved through the city streets, the wind howled around them, but Lily never let go of his hand. Her small fingers clung to him with fragile trust, as if he were the only solid thing in a world quickly collapsing. They reached the diner, a small place on the edge of a busy street, its windows fogged, the sign flickering weakly. The moment Lily saw it, she froze, tears filling her eyes, because near the back alley, police tape still fluttered in the wind. Ethan knelt beside her, steady yet gentle, and told her they were going to find answers together. Inside, the diner workers recognized Lily instantly. Their expressions shifted from shock to worry. Someone quietly explained that Grace had gone out back around midnight to take the trash out during a snowstorm. She usually returned seconds later, but last night she didn't. They thought she slipped away early due to weather or had trouble with transportation. No one imagined she had disappeared. Ethan felt anger rise in him, anger at how easily the world overlooked people without power, without position. He immediately requested security camera footage. The manager hesitated. It wasn't a simple process, and a CEO demanding footage could cause complications. But Ethan's voice, calm but heavy with authority, convinced him. Within minutes, the grainy footage appeared on a small monitor. Lily pressed close, holding her breath. The video showed Grace stepping into the alley, her coat tight around her, snow blowing harshly. She tossed a garbage bag, turned, and then paused, squinting, as if hearing someone. A shadow moved at the edge of the frame. Someone approached her. And then the camera glitched, lines covering the screen, cutting off the crucial moment. When the image returned, Grace was gone. Lily gasped, covering her mouth. Ethan's pulse hammered. He requested the alley to be searched immediately, and his security team fanned out. He took Lily outside and walked slowly along the snow-packed pavement. Just then, they noticed faint marks, footsteps partly covered by fresh snowfall. 2 sets. One small, one large. They led toward the old railway yard behind the diner, a place no one used anymore since construction began on new buildings nearby. Ethan didn't even wait for backup. He scooped Lily into his arms and followed the trail through the frigid air, the wind now biting like knives. The yard was abandoned, silent except for the whistle of wind through metal beams. Lily clung to him, trembling. Ethan felt her fear seep into him, awakening an intense protectiveness he had never felt before. As they walked deeper into the yard, they heard a faint sound, something between a groan and a whisper. Lily's head snapped up, and Ethan hurried toward the noise. Under an old metal awning, half buried in snow, lay Grace Parker. Her face was bruised, her hands scraped, her breath weak. She had slipped on ice, hit her head, and collapsed. The footsteps belonged to a passerby who attempted to help but panicked when she didn't respond and ran to call for help, unable to return due to the worsening storm. No ambulance had come because the call to emergency services never connected. The storm had knocked out multiple lines in that area. Ethan gently checked Grace's pulse. It was faint but alive. He immediately wrapped his coat around her, lifted her into his arms, and told Lily everything would be okay. Lily cried silently, her small hand gripping her mother's sleeve as Ethan carried her through the snow. He called his driver and demanded they meet him halfway, turning the trek into a desperate race against the cold. When they reached the SUV, Ethan helped settle Grace inside and rushed her to the nearest hospital. Doctors immediately took her in, and Lily refused to let go of Ethan's hand, even as nurses asked her to step aside. Hours passed. Lily sat beside Ethan in the waiting area, leaning into him, exhausted yet refusing to sleep. Ethan stayed with her, offering warmth and comfort as the storm raged outside. When the doctor finally emerged, his expression softened as he explained that Grace would recover. She had suffered mild hypothermia and a concussion, but thanks to being found in time, she was safe. At that moment, Lily burst into tears, tears of relief, exhaustion, and gratitude, and Ethan felt his own eyes sting. He wasn't used to such raw emotion. His life was built on walls, contracts, and silence. But today, something had shifted inside him. When Grace finally woke, her voice weak, she thanked Ethan with trembling hands. She was a single mother doing everything she could for her daughter, working late shifts, juggling bills, and never letting Lily see her pain. Ethan could see the exhaustion in her eyes, the strength in her spirit, and the love that kept her going. Over the next few days, while Grace recovered, Ethan arranged meals, ensured Lily had warm clothes, and even hired a temporary caregiver to help them at home. He visited often, not out of obligation, but because something about this little family filled a quiet emptiness inside him he had long ignored. Lily's bright spirit, her trust, and Grace's quiet resilience touched him deeply. He found himself laughing more